What's going on, guys? What's going on, girls? Merry Christmas Eve to those of you that applies. We have a Monday Night Football game tonight, and I haven't been doing a lot of Monday Night Football showdown slates, but I think this is a good situation for it. A lot of people, maybe Christmas, can be watching with your family, want to get some advice, and I'm here to give you some advice. So if this is your first time seeing me at my channel, welcome. My name's Sal. And I have a free guide below in the description for you guys. I just created it this weekend. Tips to being more contrarian and basically how to win at DraftKings. You can't just play all the same guys as everybody else, or could you? That's down below in there. Check that out, totally free. Just click the link and it'll send you an email of it. But welcome to the channel. My first look video for week 17 is out. I appreciate it. If please, the only Christmas gift I want is 1,000 subscribers. I'll be completely honest. We're at like 830-ish. We need a big push, and I want it by the end of week 17 before the playoffs. That was my goal I set at the midway point of this season, and we've been getting there weekly, 100 subscribers a week. If we can somehow plow through that, even if you, this is your first time here, I really appreciate it. In the Christmas spirit, whether you're watching this, well, you should be watching this before Christmas. It's Monday Night Football game. Please, if you could hit the like button, let us get up there on the search rankings, and if you could just please hit that subscribe button, and I would greatly appreciate it. Best Christmas gift ever. But yeah, let's break down this Monday Night Football slate. It's going to be a quick one. I'm going to try and just pound out this video for you guys. Basically, if you've been here before or you haven't, what I like to do on these slates is find a way to be contrarian, because there's going to be guys who are going to be 80% owned. Maybe not on this slate, but every single week we see a guy 80% owned, or majority of the weeks we see a guy 80% owned on these island games. And there is a lot of good opportunity to fade those guys and have success. You fade those guys, you put yourself automatically in the top 20% of people who don't have that guy. If there's an injury, if he just shits the bed, like we saw Leonard Fournette do a couple weeks back, like we've seen guys like Saquon Barkley do in the past, Derek Carr, who I think is on this slate, has done in the past. It gives you opportunity, right? It gives you opportunity to have a better shot at winning the thing, probably automatically cashing. So I like to do that, and if I'm entering 10 lineups, probably 3 or 4 of those lineups, unless I feel like I have a big edge, I'll go 6 or 7. Like Leonard Fournette week, I didn't have him. I entered 10 lineups, only had him in 3, and he was 85% owned, and he shit the bed. So it gives you a better chance to win. These slates are hard to win, but they're fun, so don't put all your money into them, but put some in if you want to have some fun, right? And maybe you hit something. Huge payout, so obviously lots of people like to play them. But let's see what we have here building this. So that's just my disclaimer of how I kind of approach these slates. We get Philip Lindsay. So Philip Lindsay, do I think he'll be 80% owned? Not at all. I'm not sure we will have an 80% owned guy on the slate because of his last couple of spots. I think he'll be an easier fade. He does get Oakland defense, which is a good and giving spot. Derek Carr could be a guy who's up there in ownership, maybe 60 plus, but I don't see him approaching 80. So it seems like a week where ownership is going to be pretty spread out because there's not a big stud, right? And if Philip Lindsay last week would have went for 30 points, then obviously I think there's a better shot of him being in the 70s, if not higher. But with limited options, Philip Lindsay very well could be a guy that everybody targets, but since he's the most expensive, I'm not sure people will. So let's see what we got here. Hamilton's a guy I want to play, right? At 8K, I think he's priced pretty appropriately for this slate. 21 targets in 2 weeks. He's taking over the Emmanuel Sanders roles, and he's honestly just pretty close in explosiveness. Saw a couple of videos on his coming out of college. He was top 5 in separation, top 5 in getting off of the line of scrimmage. He's just an absolute stud. I watched him live at Penn State. I like him a lot, and that's my bias. But I'm putting him in here because he's getting targets. He's not going to be super high owned. He might be 50% owned on a slate like this, and that's fine because he's going to see 10 targets, and if one of those ends up being in the end zone on this slate, you just need the guys who are going to score touchdowns. He definitely has captain viable based on the amount of targets he's getting, based on the fact that he has seen red zone targets in the 2 weeks that he started. Might end up throwing him in there. And then the rest of these wide receivers here, if we just look at them, they're kind of all in the same price range. Sutton might be a guy who's going to get lower ownership because in the past month of the season, all season long, I mean, he's just been overhyped for his talent, but he does have a good matchup on the outside. He could break off a big play. Tim Patrick, though, has been the guy, 18 targets over the last 2 weeks. On the outside, Sanders in the slot. On the outside, we've seen a lot of the work and a lot of the targets from Case Keenum. Sutton might be more talented, if that. We're not even sure at this point. He might be more talented based on where he was drafted, but Patrick's been the guy who's actually been seeing the work out there. So we'll monitor that. But on this slate, let's see what else we have here. And you get Tim Patrick, it drops off to these backup running back quarterbacks, and then goes right to Doug Martin. So not a big drop off, which is nice for salary-wise building a lineup. Doug Martin, 9 carries, not really going to be much there either. Could be a spot, though, to be a little bit contrarian. Not sure a lot of people will roster him. I like this guy, Jalen Richard, right here. Catches the ball. That's obviously something that you want on these slates. And he's only 4,400. You get a guy that's 4,400 and he can put up 10 points this frequently. I think you take it because if he's putting up 10 points this frequently, as you can see here, pretty much more than half his weeks he's had 10 points. Let's see how many of those weeks he hit 12. So we'll say 1, 2, we'll say that's 12, we'll say that's 12, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pretty much 8 weeks he's hit 12, which would be pretty much 3xing his value. And on these slates, if you can find guys 3xing their value, that's pretty good. Let's put Jalen Richard in there as well, so now you get a lower owned guy. Let's come down to this range down here where we saw Charkandrick West at like $300 or $200 last night be on the winning lineups. Let's see if we can find anybody like that in this range at the super cheap. Lee Smith, he'll catch a ball, right? Catch a ball for a touchdown. That's pretty crazy. 1-yard touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. Obviously, that's not going to keep up. Might garner some ownership for him. But he's caught a ball in each of the past 2 weeks. Could be an option at 200 if you really want to get up, but I don't think we need to get up on this slate. I think you could separate yourself in other ways. So one of the things in that guide, that free guide down below, tips of being more contrarian, download it, like I said, send you an email, totally free. One of the things I touch on, and I touch on a lot of these different things, leave money on the table, even on these slates. You'll see down below, if you leave $500 on the table, only 2% of people are doing that this year on fantasy. And I can show you where I got that down below. Lots of other cool things. If you leave $300 on the table, only 15% of people are leaving $300. So 85% of the field is trying to spend all their money, or at least leave $100 or $200. That's a little bit different on one game slates, but it's still the same idea. If you leave $500 on the table, a lot less people are going to have that lineup. So that's somewhere where we can go to be contrarian in these slates where it's tough to be contrarian. And now this might be a slate where I'm going to play 10 lineups and only fade a guy like Lindsey in 2 because there's not a lot of playmakers on this in this game, right? Jared Cook's a guy I want to go to, and if we're going to go Jared Cook, we'd probably go Derek Carr. Jared Cook's the only guy that I feel comfortable in the receiving game. Obviously, Jalen Richard's a running back, but he's also kind of a receiver, so I feel comfortable playing him. But do we have too much Oakland here? I'm not sure. Oakland's at home, situation where they can get up and win this game, honestly. So who do we throw it back with here? We could throw it back with the defense of the Raiders. Might be a better pairing with a guy like Doug Martin, who's more of the ground and pound running back. You also have these receivers down here who we haven't even talked about. You get Aikman at 2,600. These are basically like the number 1 receivers out there right now. You get Seth Roberts, 2,800. These are the number 1 receivers right now for Oakland. It's pretty crazy. So you get lots of value at wide receiver for Oakland just because they don't have any. I mean, outside of Jared Cook, who's a tight end, acts like a receiver. Royce Freeman could be a sneaky play because he's still getting some carries. Just not a ton, right? Let's see if we build this lineup without playing a guy like Lindsey and see what happens. So we're going to go Case Keenum. Now let's say we go here and we go Hamilton in our captain spot. You get $3,000 to spend. This is where you can go and you can get a running back. So the nice thing about this slate is you have the two starting wide receivers down here for Oakland below the kickers, right? So you want to talk about a kicker getting you what, maybe if you're really lucky, 12 points, 13 points. Carlson obviously has it in him. But you're going down here to a wide receiver who's going to get more opportunities. The kicker's going to come on the field, not counting extra points, just field goal wise, 3 times maybe? On average, 2 times. You get a guy who's going to get you 4 to 7 targets and can get you 10 points and basically cancel out a kicker for cheaper. That's a good way to go. Aikman, seeing a lot of red zone targets. I kind of like him over a guy like Roberts. Let's see if we plug Aikman in here, how the lineup looks. So you get $400 left over. What I said earlier was if you have $300 or more left over, you're separating yourself from 85% of the field. That's on main game slates. But if we want to talk about one game slates, I think if you're leaving $500 on the table, if I had to guess, 10% of people do that. 10% of people leave $500 on the table, especially in a build like this where we don't have a guy like Phillip Lindsay. Take back everything I just said. I forgot Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson's at $7,600. He didn't play a couple weeks earlier, and that's where we saw Aikman kind of go off. So take back everything I just said about Jordy Nelson. Completely missed him. That's my bad. Still don't mind this though. Have a lot of Oakland. That's scary. 4 guys on Oakland. Definitely a lineup that's going to be contrarian with Hamilton in the captain spot and no Lindsey. This might be a lineup that nobody has, which is exactly what you're going for. A viable lineup that no one has. I'm going to go ahead and screenshot this just to see that this was my first look. But let's see if we can just build one more quick one from scratch, getting in some of these higher or maybe more secure guys. So we'll go Lindsey. We'll go Derek Carr and Hamilton. I think I want Hamilton 100% of my lineups based on the fact that he's in the slot. Case Keenum always looks there. And based on the fact what he's done. 7 catches in the past 2 weeks in games that were pretty close, right? In a game that they could end up trailing in Oakland. Yes, they could. Might see even more work. Let's see. Can we get both quarterbacks? 4,500. We probably can. If we come down here and get a guy like Aikman, who can we get in the flex? Nobody great, right? Let's see. What can we do? I mean, if you really want to go down here, this guy was catching a ball a game. You can get up to Doug Martin in the flex. That's not that great. Let's go to a guy like Richard in our flex. 2,400 now. You just miss out on a guy like Aikman. Now that sucks. I would really like to get Aikman in this situation. And you see it's actually kind of a little more difficult now. So let's say you go Lindsey. Let's say, do we even want Keenum? Do we even need Keenum? Let's say you don't go Keenum, right? Let's say you go Derek Carr with Deshaun Hamilton. You want to pair Derek Carr with Jared Cook. Let's put Jared Cook in our flex and see what we can do. 2,500 now. That's pretty thin as well. Whew, this is thin down here. So you can go Andre Holmes, which is definitely very thin, right? Rather just throw a duck up with this guy who's catching touchdowns lately. But that's, again, contrarian. It's not safe. Leave money on the table. You get Jared Cook. You get viable other players. I mean, honestly, if these other guys go off and this guy gets you 3 points, 1 catch for 20 yards, or falls in the end zone, you're fine. You're probably cashing. So I might have a lineup like that. Let's do one with... I like Hamilton in the flex, or in the captain spot a lot, actually. Let's do one with Aikman, who's seen some red zone targets. Putting him here. The guy that we want to go for in the captain spot right now here, and I haven't really talked about Sutton or Patrick much, and I mean, it's kind of a pick and choose right there. I'd rather have Hamilton in the flex. But you can go with multiple of these guys and kind of stack it up with Case Keenum. Say it's going to be a pass-heavy type game. Run it back with maybe running backs on the other side if you think Oakland gets up big in this one. So in the flex here, let's go ahead and put a guy like Jalen Richard. Then we could fit in a guy here. And now 3,400, you can get really whatever you want. You can get a kicker, you can get a defense. You can come down to Seth Roberts, Aikman. If you do this, you're going to be a little bit more contrarian, have a different build, which this might be more optimal instead of going for a defense or kicker with an upside of, 10 to 12 points. I mean, kickers or defense is a little higher. But with a guy like this, with the upside of catching 5 balls for 50 yards, that's 10 points right there. Falls in the end zone, you're pretty good. So yeah, that's just a couple different builds. I mean, I would say the key things are to, obviously you want to play good players in all slates. That's my biggest thing. But in one game slates, it's a little bit different. You still want to play good players, guys who have the possibility of doing something. Maybe you take a flyer on this guy who's $200. But you also want to separate yourself, right? If you're playing all the good players, you might end up at that finish line once out of every 100 times, right? And you might split the money 1,000 ways, taking home $500 each, which is pretty good for a $10 buy-in, right? But if you play different players and you kind of leave money on the table, you try and fade some of those higher owned players like Lindsey, like we did in the first build, maybe like a Case Keenum like we're doing in this build. The opportunity you get there is maybe you win once again 1 out of maybe only 500 times instead of 1 out of 100, but that time you're winning 250 grand instead of 500. So I mean, that's just the whole idea of being contrarian and trying to build a different type of lineup. If you build one like everybody else, especially on a one-game slate where a lot of people are going to have those chalkier lineups, you're going to win less money. Winning money is fun anyways, but if you continue to practice the same approach of setting yourself up to have a unique lineup that has a chance to win, you're going to win way more money. You'll just do it less, but you're winning way more, so it makes sense. So that's the whole idea there. I don't think this is a slate where anybody's going to be 80% owned. It would shock me if Lindsey is 80% owned on this slate. I could see him being closer to 70, maybe higher 60s. I really don't think anybody's going to be that highly owned. I think a guy like Sutton's going to go under-owned, and if he is as talented as his draft pick says and everybody else is saying, he's definitely in a good spot, something I have to keep an eye out for more. I think a guy like Jordy Nelson might go under-owned, although his game log lately says otherwise since he's been over 10 points 3 straight weeks. But he's in a price range where a lot of people are going to try and get Jared Cook like I did, where a lot of people are going to try and get Deshaun Hamilton like I did. So yeah, definitely going to analyze this a little bit more. Not too much because it is Christmas Eve. Have the best holiday, guys. And again, if you could just like this video, if you can hit that subscribe button, get us to 1,000, I greatly appreciate it. By the end of week 17, that's my goal. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. And again, download that free PDF below. Totally free. Trying to help you guys out. My name's Sal. Best of luck. Peace.